Now, this graph has been taken from the IPCC report, which compares the instrumental record of the Northern Hemisphere temperature, which is in red, with the temperature reconstructed using the data from the T rings and the proxy data. Viewed in the context of warming of 20th century, it appears to be well outside the natural range. If you look at the red line, which is way beyond the natural range where it should be. Indeed, the IPCC said that the 20th century is warming very high, with around 60 to 90% of the chances it is being true. And this year, you can already see in the graph that the changes are occurring at a very rapid pace. Now, why climate change has become a problem? Over the million years, the species that undergo adaptation thrive in their respective environmental condition. Therefore, a stable climate becomes an instrumental in facilitating this evolutionary process. However, when a climate undergoes rapid changes, organisms are confronted with multiple challenges. Therefore, the accelerated pace of climate change limit the time available for species to adapt to new and often adverse conditions. As a result, many of the organisms may struggle to adjust swiftly enough, leading to high risk of extinction. Not just that, the climate change has become a problem because it is contributing to the disruptive impacts on the weather patterns, which are leading to the rise in frequency and intensity in the extreme weather events. For example, there is increase in hurricane activities, there are prolonged droughts and a more occurrence of floods and cyclones in the region where the cyclones occurrence was very minimal. The correlation between these escalating global temperature and the surges in reported natural disasters underscores actually the pressing nature of these issues and the way the climate change is progressing. It is going to impact not just the ecosystem and community, but is also going to impact the economies on a global scale. Apart from that, the rising temperature are also causing the sea level to rise, and the sea level rise will destroy the habitat and the ecosystem in the low-lying area, leading to higher risk of migration due to climate-induced changes. To sum it up, the impacts of climate change can be summarized in sea level rise, the ecosystem changes, the melting of polar ice, and the coral deaths. And there are many more, which I cannot put in the slide. So now what we do? These evidences of climate change are already being noticed, definitely, underscoring the urgency of addressing these issues. So now that we have seen the scientific data, now that we have seen the pictures, and obviously in person, we are facing the impacts of climate change regularly. So this has alarmed the nations and the policymakers. The climate change is poised to exert its influence across all the sectors. It is not going to be limited just to the seas or just to the habitat or the environment surrounding the oceans, but it is also going to impact the global economy because if there is a rise in sea level, there will be harm to the marine ecosystem, there will be harm to the shipping lanes. So the climate change is not only limited to one sector, but it is going to spread across multiple sectors. Therefore, it becomes extremely crucial for all of us, limited to the 2 degrees Celsius. Sea level rise stands out as a significant long-term concern, necessitating the focused attention due to the far-reaching implications. Now, the implementations of adaptation measures is definitely crucial, but it also has a lot of limitations. Therefore, since I mentioned that it becomes extremely critical for all of us to limit the climate change to the maximum of 2 degrees Celsius. But before we delve into all these questions and problems, in our next lectures, we will look at the regional impacts of the climate change and the future predictions.
Now let's move towards the latest indication from the climate change reports. So IPCC Synthesis Report 2023, it indicates that the with the global temperature rising by 1.1 degrees Celsius, regions worldwide are experiencing significant impacts like rising sea level, extreme weather events, and disappearing sea ices. The report also emphasizes that the every incremental increase in global temperature intensifies these effects, underscoring the urgent need for immediate actions to limit the warming of avoiding catastrophic consequences. Now we'll move more towards the comprehensive analysis of the IPCC reports by WRI. So the World Resource Institute underscores the gravity of IPCC's findings and emphasizing that developing countries will require substantial financial resources to adapt to the climate change. And the report also stresses that IPCC's synthesis report provide a comprehensive assessment of devastating effects of rising greenhouse emissions globally. It also offers a hope by outlining actionable steps to reduce emissions, enhance carbon removal, and build resilience to mitigate the impacts of climate change. So, despite the looming challenges, and the IPCC affirms that there are pathways to secure sustainable future if decisive actions are taken promptly. Now, the last is NDRC's analysis. The NDRC Natural Resource Defense Council highlights that the significance of IPCC reports over the years in rising awareness about climate change. So, the latest sixth assessment reports warns that the climate impact are accelerating and intensifying. So, with irreversible changes already underway due to past emissions, the report stresses the urgent and the transformative actions are required to address the current and future climate challenges. It also emphasizes that despite decades of warnings and global leaders have been slow to act to decisively, underscores the critical importance of immediate and profound measures to combat climate change. So, in conclusion, these reports collectively emphasize the urgent need for global cooperation and immediate actions to mitigate climate change and adapt to its impact and secure sustainable future for all. So the finding also underscores the critical role of individuals, communities, government, organizations in addressing the pressing global issue. Climate change has become one of the most important but yet most overlooked issue in the maritime domain. And climate change is definitely there. If we saw the reports, we saw the findings, we saw the changes in the temperature, and how over a period of time it has impacted not only the small community but also the major fraction of the society. So we need to come up with better solutions. We need to come up with better ways to tackle all these problems, and which we will be analyzing in our third module, which will deal with the climate risk assessment, where we will understand how the underwater domain awareness framework can be a boon in tackling the impacts of climate change and adapting more comprehensive mitigating strategies in the future, and how the UDA technologies and its capabilities can be leveraged by each and every country around the globe, and how these approaches are going to be way more beneficial than we have imagined. And I think it's very important that we understand that the underwater domain is very crucial for all of us. Oceans contributes to the major chunk of our life. They are the most important resources through which our trades are channeling, and therefore its understanding of the underwater ecosystem becomes extremely important, especially in the face of risk of climate change. And climate change is definitely knocking at our doorsteps, so we need to act very quickly. We need to be very firm with our response. We need to adapt the mitigating strategies at the earliest stage, because if we don't do that, then it will be too late to act. And I think it's always best to say that prevention is better than cure.
For more such lectures and articles penned by our in-house researchers and area experts. Thank you for your attention. Have a good day.